Lest we forget Norman Borlaug, a man who saved people from starvation. Actually, over 1 billion people from starvation. The man I speak of is the one and only Norman Borlaug, a revolutionary figure in agriculture and food science. He was the mastermind behind the Green Revolution, transforming global farming. He's a true hero, a symbol of the complications in industrial agriculture. Norman's Borlaug life shows just how powerful agricultural innovation can be when it focuses on food security, but also reminds us to consider the environmental costs that can come with scientific progress. Norman Borlaug was born in 1914 in Cresco, Iowa. This town was surrounded by fields of growing crops, and admittedly, tractors outnumbered people there. He was raised on a non-mechanized, small subsistence farm, quite the opposite of what he would create. In fact, a tractor did not show up at his family farm until he was 15 years old. A lesson he would never forget from his time at Cresco High School was when he and some fellow students planted corn in unamended soil and soil amended with various concentrations of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium salts. At the end of the growing season, what everyone around him called God's best soil yielded 25 bushels per acre, while some of the amended pots yielded 50 bushels per acre, an experience that changed his entire perception. Though most of his classes were focused on agriculture and simply preparing the boys to go back to work in the fields, his vocational ag teacher, Harry Schroeder, sensed that Norman had a keen mind and had an innate curiosity about the plant growing process. After earning his PhD in plant pathology and genetics from the University of Minnesota, he started working on early crops, becoming the foundation of his career. There was a point where Norman became more than a plant nerd and instead a global icon. Obviously not an actor or singer, but almost an underground star. In the 1940s, he took up a job in Mexico with the International Maize and Wheat Improvement Center. During his time there, he started to experiment with wheat, but he created something more than wheat, a superhuman, or I guess we should call it a super plant. Borlaug developed varieties of wheat that were high-yielding, disease-resistant, and could thrive in different climates. He basically made an around-the-world plant. One of his most revolutionary ideas was creating shuttle breeding that cut the time of receiving results in half. This ultimately led to all of his greatest ideas because he could work quicker than ever. These new wheat strains were introduced in countries like Mexico, India, and Pakistan, where famine wasn't just a fear. Thanks to Norman's work, wheat production in those countries skyrocketed. Mexico went from importing grain to being self-sufficient. India and Pakistan, their grain output doubled and even tripled in some cases. This agricultural revolution was dubbed the Green Revolution. In 1970, the world noticed. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his life-saving work. A farmer winning a Nobel Peace Prize sounds ridiculous, but is it that surprising when agriculture is the background of our world? In fact, during the 20th century, Norman Borlaug was the only person to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for work on food production at its most basic level, on the lands of individual farmers. Critics of the Green Revolution argue that it came with a price. Borlaug's methods relied heavily on chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and large-scale monoculture farming. All of these practices led to great concerns for our environmental health, as if those people don't use cars every single day. I know I sounded a bit bitter there, but one criticism I do agree with is the concerns for small farms. His approach favored industrial agriculture over smaller, more sustainable farms. This could damage local communities, and it had no certainty of how the land would be affected long term. Borlaug's legacy continues, as it is still the center of conversation about food security and sustainable farming. The climate change danger and ever-growing population is an even more pressing matter to solve the mysteries of agriculture and continue the mission to create the greatest wheat variant possible.